Day.
Good morning. I'm doing very well.
Good to
Thank
hear.
you.
Yeah, good to hear. Thanks for coming on and talking with us. Appreciate it as always. And Caitlin, I'll tell you what, let's start with November, kind of a busy month for yourself. We've got Thanksgiving coming up, of course. We could talk food preparation. November is American Diabetes Month. We'll talk about that as well. But let's start with Thanksgiving and food preparation because it's not going to be long. We're going to be, if we haven't already, buying those turkeys and all the fixins that go with that Thanksgiving dinner. And we're going to start thinking about preparation and getting the kitchens cleaned up and space opened up so we can get those meals prepared as we host friends and family over the next several weeks. So let's just start with some general things, Caitlin, and dive in from there. What do you have for us today?
Right. So I think you're spot on. It's going to come sooner than we think, and fortunately, I think a lot of us are ready and excited to hang out with family, and with the pandemic, hopefully slowing in a lot of places, it'll be nice to be able to see friends and family this year. And so, of course, that means all the food and the fixings that tends to go on with Thanksgiving. So I want to offer a couple of food safety tips for this morning. So one is planning in advance. So that turkey. So I know for us last year, I ended up buying just the turkey breast portion, so it still had bone attached. So I didn't need a whole turkey. So depending on the size of your gathering this year, consider, do you want the whole turkey or do you maybe just want part of the turkey? And either way, you're going to have to plan in advance to figure out how to thaw that thing. And so I want to talk about uh, four, four safe options. You think this was a Monday? My goodness. Four options for thawing. And so one that is really just the quick, not the quickest, but really the most food safe is just in your refrigerator. So certainly put a platter or a plate underneath your frozen turkey so it can catch any juices or liquids that will start to turn from ice into water. And so you can do that typically about 5 pounds for 24 hours of thawing. So think about that. If you have a 20-pound turkey and you want to thaw it, you're going to need around 4 days of thawing in your refrigerator. So that's going to take some planning in advance. The second option is the microwave. Well, that probably isn't really going to work for a turkey necessarily. But if you do any type of thawing, so maybe you're going to do chicken this year because it's a smaller gathering and you want to thaw in the microwave, just know that you're going to have to finish cooking after microwaving because I'm sure several of us have experienced where you start to thaw in the microwave and you end up starting to cook the outside just a touch during that thawing process. And because you've started the cooking process, you do need to finish it. So, moving that chicken into an oven or into a slow cooker so that you can finish cooking. So refrigerator thawing, microwave thawing, if it'll fit the size of your microwave. The other is under cool running water, which is a much faster way. But the goal is that it's cool running water. So don't turn on the hot tap to get really hot water because we may be bringing that turkey, parts of it especially, into what we call the temperature danger zone. And this is a temperature range where bacteria love to grow. And when we turn on that hot tap water, it may be 80 to 100 degrees, and that is right there in the middle of our temperature danger zone. So we could have bacteria developing under that hot water. So use cool water under the tap. And then the goal is that you have continuously running water so that you are not allowing hot and cold spots to develop. If you were to instead just set the turkey in a big basin of water, we want that water to be running and being able to move. So that'll also help lower food safety risk. It'll also help to speed up the thawing. And then the other one is cooking directly from frozen, which is really challenging for something like a turkey. So again, if you're doing like a chicken, you could maybe cook it directly from frozen in the oven. It's just really kind of tricky for something that large, chicken or turkey. So if you have questions on how to do that from frozen, USDA does have steps on how to do it from frozen. It just takes about 2 to 3 times the cook time. So just be aware of that. So consider those 4 thawing options as you're planning for your Thanksgiving meal. And then second, I just want to talk about doing keeping your kitchen clean and separate. So if you're planning to have multiple dishes going on, be aware of what things are touching different surfaces. So if you are working on the turkey and then you are going to start working on a fruit salad and then you're going to start making dressing, be aware of where your hands are going. So are they being washed in between those different tasks? Are you cleaning the counter with soap and water in between, especially if you're using raw foods like a turkey compared to ready to eat foods like that fruit salad? So start to notice what your kitchen space is looking like and what foods are touching different surfaces.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I wanted to get to next. Again, Caitlin Mellendorf is the nutrition educator with University of Illinois Extension in Macon, Piatt, and DeWitt counties. That those surface things and making sure that we're cleaning and not leaving chances for, is it cross-contamination? I think that's the term, Caitlin, making sure that you're not mixing, your meats and, other baking goods, and risking contamination in those things. Let's talk a little bit about that and keeping surfaces clean, utensils clean and washed. How about some of those things?
You are spot on. That is the term. It is cross-contamination. So it's moving some bacterial or other microorganisms from one surface to another. So that can be through things like cutting boards, knives, even our hands, and sometimes other utensils that we're working with. So you don't necessarily need to do a bleach sanitizer, although you're welcome to, but generally soap and water is plenty as long as you are cleaning up juices and you're making sure, especially raw meat juices, and you're making sure that your surfaces aren't doing that cross contamination. I think this, especially right now, because technology is so useful, it's nice to have your phone or your tablet in the kitchen so you can look at a recipe if you're not using a true cookbook. But even if you are doing a paper cookbook, how many times are you touching the pages with sticky hands or batter, or with your phone? We already touch our phones throughout the day anyway. So if we're in the kitchen working, are we cross-contaminating potentially from germs on our phone or our tablet into what we're working with? And I know when I teach food sanitation classes, I talk about it. Sometimes it feels like when you're in the kitchen, you're just washing your hands all the time. And it does kind of feel like that. But it is about making sure that we aren't getting our family sick. I know I can attest to times that we've had big family functions, and over the next couple of days, we've had people, call their fellow aunt or uncle or cousin and go, "Oh boy, I don't feel great. I think I ate something that made me sick." So this is not something to play around with, especially when it comes to younger kids and older adults in your family. So do be thinking about what surfaces you're touching, who's touching what, and how to just keep that clean. Soap and water is a great option. Something like your tablet, you can buy special cleaners for that. Or if you want to make a bleach and water solution, just know you don't need a lot. It's usually about a teaspoon per every 4 cups of water. So it's a fairly dilute ratio. You don't need to pour a large amount of bleach water onto a surface to sanitize it. So soap and water is great. If you want to take the extra step to sanitize, you can do a very diluted bleach and water solution.
Sure. Caitlin, let's talk a little bit about making sure that our meats are cooked to the proper temperature, because you mentioned, getting yourself sick with something you ate. This is another way we can make ourselves sick, is if we don't cook our turkeys and, I don't know what other meats people make for Thanksgiving, but at any rate, just making sure things get cooked to the proper temperature. We don't have raw materials we're taking in. How about those things?
Right. So, yes, thank you for bringing that up, because taking temperature is really important. So, even if you're buying a turkey with the pop up timer, it's still a really good idea. If you don't already have a food thermometer, to go ahead and invest in one. You can go to your local grocery store, even, dollar store, and they usually have some really basic thermometers that will work just great for temping your foods. Yeah, I'm not sure if a lot of folks do other, ham we always think about for Easter or Christmas or other holidays, but turkey seems to be the mainstay for a lot of households on Thanksgiving. So in terms of temping, what's really helpful is, I'm going to refer you back to USDA. So they have a really nice breakdown of different types of cooking. So if you want to be roasting in your oven, you want to be out on a smoker doing that. If you want to spatchcock, which is kind of like you remove the backbone so you can kind of flay the bird flat, they have different recommendations on how to cook it. And one thing that I think is really interesting is they talk about if you're doing an oven, you don't want to set the oven temperature any lower than 325 Fahrenheit, because remember, this is a very large bird. We run the risk of bacteria growing in this bird, and so we do want to not cook it too low. Yes, we're going to cook it for a long time because it's a large piece of meat, but we don't want to set it too low. So we can always pull in things like foil to prevent burning in certain places. So if you're going to do an oven roast, 325 is your minimum temperature. And then when you pull out that food thermometer, USDA recommends temping that bird in 3 different spots. So the inner part of the thigh meat, the inner part of the wing, and whatever is the thickest point for the breast meat. And the temperature that you're looking for in all 3 places is 165. And the reason that we're doing 3 different spots is that it's a very large bird, very large piece of meat, plus different meats will cook at different rates based on how thin or thick they are, plus the amount of fat that there tends to be more fat in the thigh and the wing, or the thigh, and less fat in the wing and the breast meat. And so we do want to double check that temperature is being reached. And the temperature you want to have at all 3 points is 165 Fahrenheit.
Very good. So keep those things in mind. And Kaylin, I wish we could go farther. I'm sure there's other topics we're not quite getting to, but in the event there's more to be talked about, where do folks go, or who do they call for all that information? How about that?
Yeah, so USDA is still my go-to for a lot of things turkey. So their website is usda.gov, and we do have our Turkey at the Holidays website within Illinois Extension. So that one's kind of fun. If you go to our main extension page, extension.illinois.edu, our staff just created a Thanksgiving guide, and that will link to the different turkey-based things on recipes and some other things for family events, not just food. So check that one out as well at extension.illinois.edu and look for the Thanksgiving guide on that front page.
That is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the U of I Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. We've got more with her on the way on the WHOW Morning Show.
Getting your pet's needed medications is easy with Covenant Animal Clinic in Clinton.
Yes, very convenient, especially because I live in Bloomington. It always gets delivered right to your door.
I've used the online pharmacy. It's so easy.
Click the Covenant Animal Clinic icon at DeWittDailyNews.com to learn more.
Eagle Ridge Supportive Living Indicator is affordable to everyone. Marketing Director Carla Thomas here, inviting you to schedule your tour by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com and start enjoying supportive living.
Thank you for listening to this Miller Media Group radio station. We appreciate you making the choice to tune in to us. We want to remind you of some things to keep the attorneys happy. Our stations allow 1 winner per household in a 30-day period. Cash prizes are mailed to our winners within 30 days of winning. And as you've probably already guessed, portions of today's programming on this Miller Media Group radio station were pre-recorded and are mechanically or digitally reproduced. There. Now we've made the attorneys happy. Thanks again for listening to this Miller Media Group station.
Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, police blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more is DeWittDailyNews.com. Since 2008, DeWittDailyNews.com has delivered fresh, online content to internet readers. From the City Council, to School Board, to the County Board, and more, DeWittDailyNews.com covers the local news you expect from the area's #1 local news source, and it's all absolutely free. Now you have even more ways to access DeWittDailyNews.com, whether you're at your desktop, laptop, tablet, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com is delivered to all those platforms. That's right. It's even there on your iPhone and smartphone. The same local news, weather, and sports that's on the full-size edition is on your iPhone and smartphone just by going to DeWittDailyNews.com. If you haven't tried it, why don't you? Go to Central Illinois' leading online source for local news, police blotter, for the record information, obituaries, and more on your desktop, laptop, iPhone, or smartphone, DeWittDailyNews.com.
You're listening to The Morning Show, streamed by clicking the WHOW live icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. And again, on the phone with me is Caitlin Mellendorf, nutrition educator with the University of Illinois Extension in DeWitt, Macon, and Piatt counties. And Caitlin, November is American Diabetes Month. Let's talk a little bit about this. Prevalence of diabetes as of 2018, about 10.5% of the population impacted by diabetes. That is quite the number there, Caitlin. How about diabetes?
Yeah, so around 1 in 10 people. So I kind of like switching it to that perspective. So if you think about, if you know 10 people, the likelihood is that one of them has diabetes. And then when you look at individuals who have pre-diabetes, which is where their blood sugar, which is a test we do to determine and diagnose diabetes, is not quite at the level to be diabetes, but it's still higher than what we would consider typical. The rates of that are closer to 1 in 3 people. So it's really interesting to look at. This is a really important disease to talk about. And so November is the month that we really bring up awareness about diabetes and invite people to think more about their personal health history and to share their stories if they have diabetes, how it is that they're managing and doing what they're doing in terms of food and activity and working with medication to manage their diabetes.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit, Caitlin. I don't want to run out of time and forget about this talking point. I know that the University of Illinois Extension does a lot of programming around diabetes, and some of that is wrapping up, but folks can go back and check it out. What do you have for folks out there?
Yeah, so this November, our state team decided to do just a short 2-part pre-diabetes webinar series and just promote and give people some starting points. So if they have family history of diabetes, or if they've been told by their doctor, your blood sugar is a little high, we want to hopefully get you some skills in managing your lifestyle pieces, so stress and food and activity, so that we can hopefully prevent your blood sugar from going higher and becoming diabetes. And so that webinar series is, I think, finishing actually today around noon, but the recordings will be posted hopefully within the next month. So for those that want to go back and watch and listen for that, I think this one's only 30 minutes, to learn a little bit about prediabetes and hear from some of our other educators around Illinois Extension on how to manage and improve your life around prediabetes. And those typically end up on our YouTube channel for University of Illinois Extension. So if you go into youtube.com and you search for Illinois Extension, we pop up and you can see all the different things that are posted, not just diabetes topics, but all the things that we do in Extension. As well, for folks that want to do more of a reading on diabetes, we've revamped our diabetes website, so they can go to diabetes.extension.illinois.edu, and it has resources for adults, resources for youth, recipe ideas, and it is there to connect you and provide an additional resource, because of course we want you to work with a provider to get that one-on-one treatment and experience, but we want to provide you that resource-based, evidence-based information around diabetes to get you started.
Caitlin, any other resources you want to highlight for us this morning?
Yeah, so diabetes doesn't impact just your blood sugar, inside your blood. It also impacts other parts of your body. So we see people who have had complications with their diabetes. They tend to have issues with their kidneys later on in their diagnosis. Some people have issues with their eyes. Some people may have issues with what's called neuropathy, so the nerve endings in things like their fingers or their toes. They just don't have quite the sensation that they did before. And so I really want people to be aware that it's not just working with your primary care provider. Do ask about, if you're noticing that your eyes just aren't focusing quite right, go have an eye exam. If you're noticing that your fingers just seem kind of numb, it's a really good idea to get that checked out. If you're noticing your urine is really dark or discolored, maybe you're having issues with your kidneys at that point.
Sure.
And these are all things that can be dangerous if we're not taking care of them, but they're also things that if we're working with providers, they can help us better manage and figure out some solutions.
Caitlin, I don't mean to cut us off. I need to let you go. I apologize for that. Caitlin Mellendorf, Nutrition Educator. Network News is next.
Soared 6.2% last month compared with a year earlier. Surging cost of food, gas, and housing, leaving Americans grappling with the highest inflation